What's up guys, this is Kate with TypeMatch and welcome to another episode of videos that appear to be in a completely random order. Today I've decided that I want to talk about how couples might argue in a relationship because we've talked about some of the good, but it's important to acknowledge a lot of the bad too. Arguments are going to come up. So I want to talk about like why they would happen between different types and where people are coming from in an argument so you can know kind of like how to mitigate that argument or just like where the person's coming from, like I already said. So let's get down to it. When types argue, they are arguing from a position of their parent function, which is their auxiliary function, their second function. So as a result, they are also arguing with their critic function because the two are connected. So I organized my whiteboard very nicely. I'm very proud of my whiteboard today. And I went with this first box so you could see the parent and critic function of all the types. So let's run through them and see how the different types would argue. INTP and INFP arguing from a position of NE parent will tell you like all of the bad things that could happen to you in the future. Like, okay, well, if you continue down this path, this is what's going to happen to you. And you're going to end up alone because nobody's going to want to be with you. And I certainly won't want to. And this isn't coming from like a position of like a threat, like, bad things are going to happen to you. Like, they're not mobsters. They're just saying like, I can see that your future does not look good if you continue to do the things that you're doing. ENTJ and ENFJ and I parent will argue from a position of their own future and what they want. And this one, like if you hear about people who break up because, well, we just didn't want the same things, that is probably an I parent because they are planning for their own future very responsibly, and you want the wrong things because if you really thought about this, you would want these things like I do. So since we don't want the same things, looks like this is just not going to work out. ISTP and ISFP, SE parent. This one, oh gosh, this one makes me a little nervous because they will bring up all of the things that they've observed about you. And it can be kind of embarrassing because it's like, oh my God, I didn't even know that you saw that or that you noticed that. And like, no, but they notice everything. So it's like, well, you don't know that I noticed this, and this about you. And can also be from a position of what's real. Like in my experience, that's not a real thing, what you're talking about right now. Then ESFJ, ESTJ, this one is fantastic. I get to deal with this one all the time because I have an ESFJ mother, and SI parent will drag up all the stuff from the past when they're mad at you. It's like, were you saving that? Like, you got mad about something 2 months ago, but you saved it to bring it up now in this instance when you're mad at me about something completely different. So yeah, bringing up things from months ago, years ago, all of the things that you have ever done wrong to them in the past. INTJ and ISTJ, this will be like, let me give you all of the evidence for why you are a terrible person. And it looks like you're thinking a little too highly of yourself over there. Let me drag you down a notch, because they have TE as their parent, which is aware of like your social status. So you're not so great as you think you are. And let me give you all of the data points, all of the research behind why you're not so great. Then ENTP, ESTP, this one is very fun for the people in my life to have to deal with. So sorry about that, but TI parent will be like, that doesn't make any sense. That is not logical, and you obviously haven't thought about this enough, because if you had thought about it, then you would think the same thing that I do. So let me if-then you to death, like, well, if this, then this, if this, then this. A lot of fun to argue with TI parent. INFJ and ISFJ, this is why all the reasons why you're a terrible person, and this is why everybody hates you. Okay, you are making everybody feel bad, everybody really uncomfortable. Basically, you're being a jerk, okay, and everybody feels it. ENFP, ESFP, final one, FI parent, you're making me feel really bad, or you're a terrible person because you can't see that this thing is either good or bad like I can. Okay, so this is like a position of their moral judgment. So if you violate one of their values, then they're going to come after you. With FI parents, like, wow, is it like, they'll come after you like, isn't that terrible? And if you're not like, yeah, that's terrible, it's like, man, you must be a terrible person, because you can't see that this is a terrible thing like I can. And let's come up here to the judging functions, because it's not only important in a relationship that you have like opposite functions can sometimes be a good thing, but it matters a lot like where they are in the stack, especially when it comes to judging functions. So for example, hero, parent versus trickster, demon, annoyance. So let's go, if somebody has, take FI again, FI as their parent function, because the hero is really a little bit easier to get past because it's optimistic, but the parent is like something that cannot be ignored. Okay, it's like, it can almost feel like a burden upon this person where they're like, why do I always have to do this? It's like, I have to do it because it's my parents and I gotta parent you on this. So FI parent versus somebody who has FI trickster, like me. They will argue, sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice. They will argue from a position of FI parent, and for the person with FI trickster, it's like FI doesn't even exist in their world. So their argument is just going shoo. And then the person who has FI trickster has TI as their parent, so they're going to argue from that perspective. But the person who has FI parent has TI trickster, so that argument is just going to go shoo. And so it's just like total misunderstanding. Like, they're not speaking the same language. They're not communicating at all. So it's important that if they do have opposite judging functions, that they kind of line up similarly. Then on to perceiving functions. This one can cause annoyance, but not in the same type of way. More of like if you had the same perceiving functions, but in a different order, it can cause annoyance. Or even in the same order, it can cause annoyance. Like two SE heroes can annoy each other and cause discomfort, because it's like, why are you trying to do what I do? Like, let me do this. Let me SE. That's my thing. Stop doing my thing. You do your thing over there. Stop trying to do me, but you're doing it wrongly. Okay. And then let's come down to child functions, our last box. So child functions are a little bit different. They're like an exception, because a child function is optimistic and it's innocent, and it can look up to its same function in a higher position. So like the child function, like NE child would look up to NE parent or NE hero in the same way an actual child would look up to a parent or hero and be like, wow, NE hero, I want to be like you when I grow up. It's amazing what you can do. And because it's very different, like a hero function to a child function and a parent function to a child function, like their capacity and how quick they are on the uptake and their attitude is totally different. So though a parent and a child function are just one off, they're a completely different animal. So the child function will be a little bit slower than the parents, but they'll eventually like arrive at that same place. But the parent function may get a little bit annoyed with the child function. Like, let's say someone has FE parent and the other has FE child, like it'll be like, oh, why aren't you getting this yet? Like, this is so obvious. And the child's just like, I don't know, I just don't get it yet, but later they will. So that can cause a little bit annoyance with the person who has that function as their parent function. But then they always end up giving the child function like a free pass, because it's like, I like having you around, kid. You look up to me. You make me feel good about what I think I'm really good at. And it's a nice little boost for my ego. I appreciate you. So, yeah, that's all I have to say for today about how the types argue. But if you're interested in learning more about relationship compatibility, you could check out TypeMatch on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The TypeMatch app is coming out in just a few days. And for now, you could check out typematchapp.com for information about the app, blog, and personality test.